Hey everybody, it's Mark and
Rob,
owners, Hammer Down Armament. Today, I wanted to have a discussion with our fine Cerakote artist, Robert J. Bromley III, about some of his, well, we'll call them favorite Cerakote paint jobs that have gone through the shop. So without further ado, some fine examples. So, Rob, this is one of our display pieces that we keep here in the shop. Tell me the story on this one.
So this was relatively early on when I was learning the craft, and one of the things that I noticed from other Cerakote applications that I've seen not done by me was that the more layers you added, the more and more you could feel the the thickness
texture of
them.
it, yeah.
And that just pisses me off. So this basically was how many layers of paint can I get before I start feeling the coating? And this has 8.
There's eight layers of paint on here.
Layers of color.
That's crazy.
So there's 8 different colors.
Look at that. That's 8 layers of color and stencils and different paint, and
it's relatively smooth.
it's very smooth.
Like you're not going to get away from it in totally.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But it's
very
smooth.
difficult to tell that.
And if you're doing 8 coats,
layers.
that's like insane.
It is, and when you think about like even just the mill size of each individual coat, like it's still going to make some level of difference, but you can't really tell much of anything at all in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you call this pattern?
It was just some shit I made up.
Yeah, well, it's super cool. I mean, is this the one that you call Pennsylvania camo or
No.
Towny camo?
No.
And we'll have to find one of those.
Towny?
Yeah.
Towny I did on, Towny was the Yeti cup that I did for you, and you didn't like it.
And then you kept it because I didn't like it. It wasn't that I didn't like it. It just wasn't what I was looking for in that project.
Guy knows what he wants.
That's right. All right, so the next one, since we're talking about layers of paint, one of your favorites.
Yeah, this thing sucked.
This was kind of my brainchild that I had as an idea. This is my 3-gun competition rifle that Rob put into reality, for that matter. I basically told him I want gold tiger stripe camo, but I want it to sparkle like a communist dictator's 1911. So, and it does. Like you probably can't tell from the video, but this thing has like gun candy on the top, so it sparkles like a bass boat, and I love it that way. So, how bad was this to create?
I mean, this wasn't too terrible. It's just that it gets harder. Take a look-see over here. Yeah, it gets harder to keep everything really clean. And again, when you get into layers like this, you
can't feel it at all.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I mean, even some of that really small detail stuff, you would think that it comes up, but you can't feel the layers.
That's a lot more challenging, especially when you want to get good coverage with a relatively detailed stencil on something that has a lot of, movement to it. It's like there's a lot of bends and folds on that stencil, and a lot of times if you don't get that nailed down, it'll start bleeding out.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that.
It won't look defined. But then the other thing that can happen too is that the Cerakote, as you're spraying it, could build up in that fold, and then you'll feel it.
Oh yeah,
and I can't stand that. So it's very challenging, because something like this, like a job like this, I know that I did this twice.
Yeah.
Because I just had a hard time getting it to not pull up in certain spots on the stenciling where it was too much. Like if I can catch it with my fingernail, that's a no-go.
And when you say you did it twice, what does that mean?
That means basically before, and I think there are pictures of before I put the gun candy on it. So that was that was after I redid the actual whole.
Right, so what you mean by that is you did it and then you weren't happy with it, so you stripped all of it off and started over.
Yeah, because the flow of the stenciling, like it was somewhere on the upper where I was like, I don't like that. But the flow of the stenciling, like you have to, when you're doing a job like this, it's one cohesive unit. Like it's not like I'm just gonna blast that upper and redo everything, do the upper and then expect it to be like, oh, it's blending, you know?
Well, and people don't like think about the attention to detail that goes in it of things like the ejection port cover and things like that, that it all has to match and be all the same. So,
yeah, what's nice
puts a lot of thought into it.
This is a good test bed too, because this is one of your 3-gun rifles.
Yep.
So this thing gets the shit shot out of it.
Yeah.
He's beating the hell out of this thing. I don't know how many people out there in the world are familiar with 3-gunners, but they throw their garbage in garbage cans.
Yep, 100%.
And they just toss those suckers in.
Just huck it from like 3 feet away.
You know, Cerakote, it holds up.
It definitely does. This thing I think you did this it's at least 2 years ago, maybe 3. And I can't tell any wear on this whatsoever. Like there are no scratches, there's no like wear on it. And I have a very high-end pistol that's DLC coated, and the DLC coating doesn't hold up that well as what this does. So I'm super happy with it. So
yeah, the gun candy is very hard.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not even just the gun candy. Cerakote now has their own version of that. It's their clear.
Right.
So Cerakote's clear coat is very durable. They have a matte and a gloss. Both of them are going to increase gloss units to the job. So if it is something that you want legit matte, then you can't use it. But when you start mixing it, as a top coat, it is very durable.
Yeah. This thing holds up like crazy. All right, and now for probably your favorite one ever. You're probably mad that I would even show this to people because they might actually want to do that. Tell us the story on this one.
It's very expensive. It would cost you thousands of dollars to replicate this.
Only because he doesn't want to do it
Thousands of dollars.
And that's how much it costs to clean up his paint booth after he...
No, I didn't even clean it up, mostly. It's just, it looks like, like I filled up a bunch of balloons with different paint and popped them, and then,
So how do you do this?
This sucks to do, and it's really challenging. Clearly, there's not really any...
it's not stenciling.
There's no stencil that's going to, be able to replicate this without a disgusting amount of time. And then even with that, I'm not totally sure that you'd ever get like the good feel out of it. So the only thing that I could really think of, and even on here, like this is good. It's not terrible.
There are very few places that you can feel the difference. Like some of the really thick lines you can feel.
Yeah, but the only way I could really figure out how to do it was to basically, the hardest part about this was nailing down the flash time, because for me to get this Cerakote, the splattered effect, to stick to the black effectively, like to the point now where this was done very similar in time frame to your other ones, I think, right? So this is like a couple years.
Yeah.
For that paint to stick effectively to the base coat, it should be going on wet. Like the base coat is still wet. I paint the individual parts completely tore down, so it's full coverage with Cerakote. So the challenging part was to do my mock-up reassembly so that I can get everything
flowing together.
Right, like you want to do everything as one piece, like when you get into something like this. But at the same time, I didn't want to paint it as one unit because then you're not going to get full coverage. So what I had to do was do a base coat of H190. I like to call it H190 plus. All I'm doing is increasing the amount of hardener to the ratio mix. I did that for my standard paint on all the individual parts, and that puts down about 1.2 to 1.5 mils. Okay.
Yeah, that's super thin.
And what I did was basically, at first I was thinking like, oh, I'll flash it and I'll just see how low I can get in that time frame. And it's impossible. So what I ended up having to do was I had to do this one twice because I determined that there was no way that you were going to get a flash to where it's still going to be wet but dry enough for me to assemble everything without making it a mess.
Yeah.
So I coated everything in matte black, let it do a proper flash, okay? Assembled all the parts, then did another coat, like a light, like
black.
another coat of black millage.
Yeah.
Just like a mill, like 1.2.
Yeah.
I sprayed it, and then while it was wet, so after it gasses out, then I can add my colors. And that's the only way you're gonna get that to stick like that, is you have to throw it on wet.
Yeah.
This did suck because the trying to like flick it on there, I'm making a bloody mess of everything. It's absolutely on everything. It's on my crispy boots. It's everywhere, pants, the whole nine.
Yeah. That's fine.
But for like those heavier lines, you're trying to like combat runs.
Yeah.
So there I am with a hair dryer trying to push the little runs out so that it doesn't build up.
Yeah.
Yeah, total pain in the ass. If you want this done,
putting
it's
them
like,
in.
It's like thousands and thousands of dollars to get this done.
But just the level, like you can tell how, it was painted, but then somewhat assembled back together. Because like, look at the ejection port cover. Like,
yeah, you want to, and that's, if you want shit to look good, you have to have it put together.
Like once it's all closed up, it's a complete rifle.
Especially, like, you're not going to mimic this kind of stuff with it apart like
no,
that. No,
that would be, like, on something like this, that would be impossible.
Yeah, that's how I got away with that. Some trade secrets there. Just, if you want to do something like this, it has to go on wet if you expect it to actually stick and last, because...
And this is another one. This is my wife's tactical games rifle. This thing is super abused. I mean, you can tell how abused it gets, because look at the cap on the top of the scope. The scope cap is almost, it's been abused so bad it looks like it's almost worn through. So, that's the way this rifle gets used, and how well this thing is held up. Like, it's drugged through the dirt. You want to think that three gunners abuse rifles? You should see how she abuses rifles. There's one where she literally threw this thing on the ground while she was running in the middle of the stage, because you had to ground your rifle, and she literally just tossed it, and it's still there. So, still looking just fine. The scope, is beat to hell. I wouldn't trust painting an at-a-ball scope, to be completely honest with you. But the Cerakote job is held up like crazy. Yeah, so those are our 3 fun examples today. Just a short video to see what you can do with Cerakote. It doesn't have to be like some crazy camo job. You could do single color, 2 color. I have a gun where I gave Rob creative license on it and just said, don't put dicks on it. And he didn't, and it looks
that
awesome.
he knows of.
That I know of. There might be, if you take it apart and actually clean it, which I don't do. So, bring your stuff down. We'll make it look super cool. Well, Rob will. I'll just gawk at it and maybe take pictures and post them on social media later. So, fun times. See ya.